Hello everyone, this is part 2 of What If Naruto Was Reborn as Kyuubi, and I hope you guys enjoy this video and to like, to subscribe, to share, and check out the playlist. To see more, comment down below. Now let's start the intro.
They call me a god. They call me a god. They call me a god.
Join my membership, the perks are great. It's in the description. The destruction spread around the city. People ran around in panic and terror, while the Kyuubi increased the amount of horror it had already caused. From a rooftop, several Anbu stood there, wielding kunai in their hands. Fire! The Anbu threw their kunai at the Kyuubi, each of them landing on separate locations on the giant fox. Attached to each kunai, a small tag was wrapped around the handle, exploding seals. One by one, each of the seals exploded and small clouds of smoke formed on the Kyuubi's body. Amidst the sound of the explosions and the people screaming, the Kyuubi gave out a laugh of evil. With the Anbu who threw the kunai in sight, the Kyuubi launched one of its tails at them, destroying the building they stood on. The Anbu could only scream when the giant tail hit their foundation. With nothing able to stop the might of the Kyuubi, it roared out loudly, striking more fear into the hearts of the victims. Naruto was sweating as this nightmare was repeating over and over in his mind. His head was tossing around his pillow and he was making small sounds of shivering fear. You really think this is Nasakuri? Sai asked. Sai and Sakura were walking down the streets, on their way to Naruto's home. Due to the incident that happened with Naruto's fury, Sai had a bandage over his nose. Sakura was leading the two with a look of somewhat anger in her eyes. He's already 10 minutes late for training. Sakura growled, and since Kakashi-sensei wasn't with us, it wouldn't matter to him if we went to his house and woke Naruto up. As the two got closer to Naruto's house, a certain silver-haired ninja was standing in the shadows. I should have known you'd be here. Kakashi-sensei. Sakura was surprised to find him with the two. You know Naruto doesn't like it when someone wakes him up. Kakashi said. He had his right hand behind his back. While Sai and Sakura couldn't see it, Kakashi had his favorite book hidden from them. Well, he's gotta stop being late. Even if I have to. Her complaint was C short from the sound of screaming. Sakura looked to the direction of the scream, which led to Naruto's bedroom. Naruto. The three ran towards Naruto's house and entered the building. Quickly making their way to Naruto's bedroom, they found him sitting in his bed, with sweat all over his face and fear in his eyes. He was breathing heavily as he had his hands over his face. Naruto. Kakashi knew well what this was about. After having the talk with Iruka, he knew that this was another one of his many nightmares. Are you alright? Yeah. Naruto wiped the sweat off his face. I'm fine. The nightmare was still fresh in his mind, but tried to avoid brining it up. Realizing why the others were here in the first place, sorry that I'm late. It's alright for now, Sakura said, relieved to know that Naruto was fine, just get changed. We'll wait for you outside. Not wasting a second, Naruto washed up and got into his favorite orange uniform. He washed his face in the sink and looked up the mirror. As he stared into his reflection, he suddenly saw something that almost made him jump back in fear. His face suddenly changed to the Kyuubi's and it growled at him. What the? Naruto shut his eyes and shook his head. Opening his eyes, he saw that the reflection was back to himself. Am I seeing things? Drying his face out with a towel, he left the washroom. He headed out the front door and locked it behind him. As he made his way down the stairs and outside, he saw his teammates waiting for him. Okay, I'm ready, Naruto said smiling. Naruto. Sakura looked at him in shock. Are you really okay? Yeah, I'm fine. Why? He looked at Sakura in confusion, but then he saw that the others were also looking concerned. Is there something wrong? Something wrong. Naruto, you're pale as chalk. Sai answered, look at yourself. Sakura pulled out a small pocket mirror and handed it to Naruto. He took the mirror and looked at his face. To his shock, Sai was right. His face was amazingly white, with a small shade of dark pink around his eyes. Perhaps I should tell Tsunade-sama to let you off the mission for today. Kakashi said. Come on, I feel fine. Naruto said. He gave his smile again, showing that he wasn't at any disadvantage. I can handle myself. Okay, Kakashi said, worryingly. Well, Godime is waiting for us right now, we better get going. As Naruto took a step, He fell down to the ground. Quickly, he forced himself back onto his feet. Are you alright? Sai asked, actually showing concern for him this time. Yeah, I'm fine. Naruto's vision started to blur slightly, but it shifted back to normal view. I just lost my footing. Kakashi simply looked in concern as Naruto smiled to shrug off what just happened. He greatly wanted to have Naruto go back to his room and sleep, but this would probably only upset Naruto. Akatsuki gathered together with a mass pile of lifeless figures. This was all that I could find. Deidara said, dumping the last one into the pile. The rest were obliterated by the Konoha ninjas in our previous encounter. This will have to do. Itachi said. Just how do you plan to control them? Hiden asked. You know absolutely nothing about puppetry. But I do have these. Itachi pointed towards his eyes, showing them his Mangekyo Sharingan. Despite it being at the Mangekyo, I can still copy techniques. So I suppose you've copied Sasori's puppet techniques? Kisame asked. Exactly. With the movements of his hand, thin threads of chakra emitted from them. One by one, each of the puppets slowly moved and stood up, but with my Sharingan, I can do more than Sasori ever could. The Akatsuki all looked in amazement as every single puppet stood on their feet, each of them somehow attached to Itachi's chakra thread fingers. Naruto, you're. I know Tsunade Bar-chan. Naruto interrupted. The name he had referred her to made her slightly flinch. I look like a ghost, but I'm fine. I'm not too sure. Perhaps you should. I said I'm fine. Naruto interrupted her yet again. Just give us our mission and we'll get going. Tsunade looked at Naruto with concern, but seeing that his smile was still as fresh as it normally is, she gave in. Okay, well the mission I have is a simple C-rank mission. C-rank. Naruto whined. What about something more better? If you're not satisfied, then you can go home. Tsunade replied, I'm still concerned about letting you even participate in this mission in the current state you're in. But I know, you're fine. Tsunade took her turn to interrupt Naruto. Well anyways, this mission requires you to go to the training field for a search and retrieve mission. Search and retrieve? Sakura asked, shouldn't you assign this to Team 8? Well, I currently have them on a B rank mission requiring their skills. Tsunade answered, I would have had Team Guy take this mission with Neji's Byakugan, but they are currently on their own mission. With Kakashi's Sharingan, it should be enough for this. Well, what does this mission require from us? Sai asked. Villagers have claimed to have seen wild animals coming from the training grounds. Tsunade explained, I need you to see if this is true and if it is, capture them all. Well, let's get going. Kakashi said. The team proceeded to the door. Naruto turned, but bumped into Sakura. Sorry, Naruto said. Naruto, you're looking really bad. Sakura said, are you sure you can do this? Yeah, you know me. Naruto smiled, but to Sakura's eyes, his smile wasn't as bright as before. As the three left the office, they met with Shikamaru and Choji. Geez, Naruto. Shikamaru commented, you're looking a little, Yeah, I know. I look like a ghost. Naruto frowned, can people stop making note of that? I'm fine. Do you mind facing away? Choji asked, a little trembling, I'm not too fond of ghosts. With a smirk on his face, Naruto decided to pull another one of his pranks. He made a face, with his eyes crossing and sticking out his tongue and began to make ghostly noises. In reaction, Choji instantly panicked and screamed. Dropping on the floor and covering his ears and closing his eyes, he didn't move. Jesus, didn't think it would do that much. Naruto said. Nice one Barker. Sakura growled. But it was just a little fun. Naruto turned to Sakura, you know me. Naruto, I'm over here. Sakura waved at Naruto's face. Naruto noticed that Sakura was suddenly no longer in front of him, but instead to his right. Confused and a little dizzy, he faced her, anyways, you know me. I like making jokes. I have a bad feeling about this. Sai whispered to Kakashi, you really think we should let him come? Well, you don't want to know what would happen if we made that decision. Kakashi answered, let's just bring him along for now. So, what are you two doing here anyways? Naruto asked Shikamaru. We're here to see how Ino is doing. Shikamaru answered, she said she was improving on her medical jutsu and wanted to show us. Oh, well she really is improving. Sakura said, you'll be surprised at how well she's been doing since her first day. Come on, you two. Kakashi called to Sakura and Naruto, "We better get going or some of them might get loose in the village. Anyways, take care." Naruto waved. Shikamaru shrugged off the fact that Naruto wasn't facing either Choji or himself when he waved. He looked down and Choji, who still had his eyes and ears closed, "Choji, would you get up? Naruto's gone. What do you plan to do with them all?" Toby asked. "I'm going to take these puppets to attack Konoha. With it as distraction, I plan to capture Naruto." Itachi answered, "As far as that backward village will assume, is that either Sasori returned for revenge, or a simple puppeteer army is invading. Not a bad plan." Deidara smiled, "But why not simply destroy the village? Well, then where would the fun be when we get all the tailed beasts?" Kisum asked, "Once we get all of them, we can destroy every single village in any way we desire." Any way we desire. Deidara grinned, "I like the sound of that. I like that a lot." Well, that was a waste of time. Kiba complained, "We get a B-rank mission to track down a spy and it turns out to be a bunch of little kids playing hide and seek 24 out of 7. Well, at least we know there wasn't any possible threat to our village." Shino said with his no expression face, as he always does. "And they won't be playing around in that area anymore. You can say that again." Kiba smirked, "Your bugs made one of the boys wet himself." Suddenly, Akamaru started to bark. The three members of Team 8 looked at Kiba's companion, wondering what was going on. "Akamaru, what is it?" Kiba asked. Akamaru simply began to growl. Kiba, being with him for his entire life and knowing his very nature of things, tried to understand what Akamaru was saying from the barking and growling. "Well," Hinata asked, "there's something going on in the village." Kiba answered, "He said something about a whisker boy and vegetable." Whisker boy and vegetable. Shino asked, "What is that supposed to mean?" "Naruto-kun." Hinata suddenly blurted out. Remembering that Naruto is the only person in the village with actual whiskers on his face, she assumed it was Naruto that Akamaru referred to. "Well, that's one, but what does he mean by vegetable?" Shino asked. "We'll have to find out when we get back." Kiba said, "We better move fast." Hinata and Shino nodded in agreement. The group of 4, including Akamaru, ran off in high speed towards the village. Hinata couldn't help but wonder if something was wrong with Naruto. The group of 4 left the Hokage's tower and were walking down the stairs outside the building. "So, do we know what kind of animals we're dealing with?" Naruto asked. As he was going down the stairs, his movement was a little out of step. It was as if he had one too many shots of sake. He managed halfway down the stairs. "Naruto, I really think this isn't a good idea for you." Kakashi said, "Maybe you should go home to rest." "I'll be fine." Naruto noticed that his vision was starting to blur. "I always am." He suddenly started to see black. Naruto. Sakura looked in shock when she saw Naruto drop. As he collapsed, he rolled down the stairs and onto the ground below. Naruto looked around him. "Where am I?" he asked. Looking at his surroundings, he saw that he was standing in the center square of Konoha. He knew that it was in the center of the village, for the ramen bar was in front of him. The place was empty, not a single person in sight. "Where is everybody?" he asked. He closed his eyes, hoping that this was all just his imagination and that he would be back to reality. When he opened his eyes, he suddenly saw the place being filled with people. They were all running away, apparently from him. He then saw Rock Lee. "Hey, Fuzzy Brows, what's going on?" Naruto walked up to him, wanting to know why they were all running away. "Stay away from me." Rock Lee backed away from Naruto. Naruto stopped in his tracks, confused about his reaction. Without hesitation, Rock Lee turned and ran away with the crowd. He looked around for any other familiar faces. He saw groups of familiar faces around him. When the crowd disappeared, only few remained. Tsunade, Kakashi, Iruka, and Jiraiya were the only adults were there. As for any younger people, Kiba, with Akamaru, Shino, Shikamaru, Ino, Choji, Sai, and Tenten were there, all of them not coming any closer towards him. He then saw Sakura running towards him. "Sakura." He smiled, knowing that she wasn't running away from him. As the two came closer, she suddenly looked distressed. "Sakura." She was looking down at his shadow. When he looked down, he saw what made her afraid. His shadow took form of Kyuubi, the 9 tails swinging about. He looked around for anyone else. When he looked to his right, he saw Hinata running towards him. As she came closer, Neji came from behind her and pulled her away. Hinata-sama no. He grabbed onto her arms, preventing her from getting any closer. Naruto-kun. He looked to his right and standing on the roof, was Sasuke. Sasuke simply looked at Naruto. Face it Naruto, you're weak. He showed no sign of pity or fear of him. You weren't strong enough to save me, you're not strong enough to control the very demon you are. Sasuke. Look at yourself. Look at what you're becoming. Sasuke pointed to Naruto's direction. Naruto suddenly felt a strange sting of pain in his hands. He looked at his hands and saw that they were igniting in a coating of red chakra. His hands started to change, growing fur and black claws. What's happening to me? He then started to feel something happening in his mouth. He put one of his hands to his mouth and knew what the change was. He was starting to grow sharper teeth. Naruto. Sakura looked in more fear when he saw what was happening to him. I'm sorry. She turned back and began to run with the others. By this time, the others turned and proceeded to run away as well. Hinata still struggled with trying to break free from Neji's grip. Naruto-kun. No, don't. Neji's grip was getting tighter on her as she was getting stronger in trying to break free. Please, let me go. Hinata begged. Hinata-sama, I'm sorry. With his strong grip, he threw Hinata up and over his shoulders. She kicked violently as she tried to get loose, but Neji's grip was still just as strong. No. He saw that he was starting to become what his shadow showed. Nu. His body increased in size and as he grew, his body changed from skin to fur. With his body taking form of Kyuubi, his mind began to think like Kyuubi. With no control over himself, he viciously roared and swung his tail around. One of his tails swung and hit Hinata and Neji, sending them to their deaths. No. With the others in range, Kyuubi launched forward. The giant claws landed on the ground, crushing Shino and Kiba underneath separate paws. Naruto saw that Akamaru jumped up and attempted to bite Kyuubi, but in retaliation, Kyuubi simply caught the dog in its jaws and Akamaru disappeared inside his mouth. Stop. Just stop. The Kyuubi's eyes finally set on Sakura. Helpless to do anything, Sakura simply ran as fast as she could, but the Kyuubi was already prepared for the K. It swung its giant 9 tails and destroyed the buildings around it. The debris flew around and large chunks of the buildings landed on the ground below. Naruto could only look in horror when he saw Sakura disappear underneath the large chunks of stone. Sakura. He looked on helplessly as his body began to relive his nightmare. Sakura kneeled down by Naruto's body. Naruto. He suddenly took in a deep breath. Panting heavily, he tried to say something. Just breathe slowly. Sakura said. He's gonna come back. Naruto panted. He's gonna K everyone. Who is? Sakura asked. Who's coming back? Naruto continued to breathe heavily before he answered. It's all my fault. One's going to, because of, me. Shush, Naruto. Stay calm. Sakura said softly. When she noticed that Naruto stopped breathing heavily, she began to worry. Naruto. He didn't respond. In fact, he didn't even breathe. He was simply lying on the ground at the foot of the stairs, not breathing with his mouth and eyes open. Sakura checked his pulse and was slightly relieved that it was still there, but the fact he wasn't responding to anything had Sakura know exactly what this issue was. Naruto was in a coma. Naruto. Sakura shook him to wake him up, but to no success. Naruto. Wake up. He still didn't respond. Naruto. Kakashi and Sai stood by her as they were helpless on how to help. Sakura hugged Naruto's comatose body, not knowing how to wake him. Naruto was on the hospital bed. His face was back to its normal tone, but his condition, according to the doctors, hasn't improved. A machine was connected to his body which kept track of his heartbeat, as well as his body temperature and brain condition. Sakura, Sai, and Kakashi were around his bed for the daily check-up on him. Though Kakashi and Sai could only come by once in a while to check up on him, Sakura looked on helplessly. She was able to heal injuries, but to get Naruto out of a coma, this was something she wished she knew how to do. Even Tsunade said that she had difficulty curing something like this. There's nothing you can do, Sakura. Kakashi said, all we can do is hope for a miracle. While the three were standing in Naruto's body, the door opened and another group of 3 entered. Hinata, Kiba, and Shino came in to see how Naruto was doing. Hinata had a small bundle of flowers, wrapped in bright-colored paper around the stems. How is he? Hinata asked. Nothing new, Sakura answered, almost 3 weeks, and there hasn't been any sign of change. Hinata put the flowers on the nightstand that was next to Naruto's bed. Remembering what she saw several days ago with him and Sakura, she's been avoiding making eye contact with Sakura. This wasn't something Hinata usually did, but it was something she found herself doing. Since that night, whenever she saw Sakura, something inside her felt strange, and whenever she looked away from her, the feeling disappeared. We better get going, Kakashi said, we've spent enough time here. Without argument, Sai and Sakura left the room, leaving the members of Team 8 with Naruto. Hinata stayed by Naruto's bed, wishing that none of this was true and that it was all a bad dream. Let's give them some time alone, Kiba whispered into Shino's ear. Shino nodded and the two proceeded to leave the room. Hinata instantly noticed this and got up from her seat. Wait, don't leave me alone with him. Hinata, we're not that dense, Kiba said. I personally don't know why Naruto hasn't figured it out yet, or even why it's Naruto you have your eyes on, but the least you should have right now is privacy with him. But he's in a coma, he won't know he's alone with you. Kiba interrupted, if that makes you any comfortable, that is. If he really is the center of your affection, you should spend as much time with him as you can alone. Shino said. From his sleeve, a small bug crawled out and flew over to the nightstand and on Hinata's flowers. Whenever you want us to come back, just crush it. Hinata was never too fond of being around Shino whenever he let his bugs loose, but eventually learned to get used to it, but to K one of his bugs was something Hinata never liked doing. Don't worry about it, I have a planet full of them in me, Shino said. Him and Kiba headed out the door with Kiba heading out first. Take as much time as you want. We'll be training. Naruto. Whose voice is that? Naruto couldn't make out where that voice belonged to, but he knew it was a female for the voice definitely gave that away. Naruto. He couldn't see where it was coming from, everything around him was dark, too dark. He considered waving his hand in front of his face, but he didn't know if he was doing that or not. There was no sign of light anywhere around, only a voice. Naruto. This looks like a good spot. Deidara said, show us what you can do. A group of 4 of the Akatsuki were standing on a cliff, just outside of a small village. Deidara, Hiden, Kisame, and Itachi were the ones that gathered together. Behind the 4, Sasori's remaining puppets were all standing in army fashion. Though counting them proved pointless, there was a good total of at least 190 left from Sasori's 298. Leave no survivors. Hiden instructed, you don't want people to spread the word and spoil the surprise. Don't tell me what to do. Itachi snapped back. He brought his hands forward. His fingertips began to glow with separate strands of chakra, each of them connecting to the many puppets. The puppets then marched forward and proceeded down the hill and towards the village. Neji entered the building of the hospital. Hinata's father had just sent him to find her, and through asking other people, he found that Hinata was here. He walked up to the front desk. Can I help you? The receptionist asked. I'm looking for Naruto Uzumaki's room. Neji answered. Just give me a second. The receptionist searched through a book, scanning through the pages. Okay, he's in room 231. Arigato. Neji gave a small bow and headed to where the room was. As he came to the door, he saw someone coming from the other end of the hallway. Tenten. Neji was surprised to see her. Neji. Tenten was just as surprised. What are you doing here? I'm looking for Hinata-sama. He answered. Shino and Kiba told me that she would be here. What about you? What are you doing here? Honestly, well, to tell you the truth, I actually came to see Naruto. Tenten shrugged her shoulders up and brought her head down, giving off a cute little girl type of pose. She also gave off a small tint of pink. Ever since he came back to Konoha last year, I've actually found him a little attractive. You're not trying to pull anything, are you? Neji asked with a look of playful suspicion, a first for almost anyone who's never been around him for a long time. What? Of course not, Tenten answered. She gave Neji a soft punch in the arm. I already know about your sister and her crush over him. Hinata-sama is not my. Oh sorry, I mean your cousin. Tenten smiled, correcting her mistake. You two just seem like brother and sister now. The two of you are always so close these days. Well, I've grown to respect her. Neji answered. He realized that they were standing outside Naruto's room for a while now. Let's go check up on him. Sure. Tenten opened the door, but when she did, she quickly turned to Neji and brought her right hand to her mouth with her index finger up. Shush. She pointed over to Naruto's bed. Look at 'em, they're so cute. Neji peered his head into the door and saw what made Tenten make that remark. Hinata was still seated on the chair. She had fallen asleep and her head was resting on the side of Naruto's bed. Her hands were resting softly on Naruto's hand. The only thing that somehow ruined the beautiful moment was the constant beeping of the machines in the room. Is he ever going to find out about her? Tenten whispered out her question. Give him time. Neji whispered back, he's not as bright as we are after all. Tenten giggled softly, not wanting to be too loud and wake up Hinata. Neji approached Hinata's side. Seeing as how peaceful she was here, he decided to leave her here. He went to another bed in the room and took the blanket from the bed. He opened up the blanket and wrapped it over Hinata. Come on, let's go. Neji said. Tenten followed Neji out of the room and shut the door behind her. So, Neji slightly mumbled out what he tried to say. What? Tenten asked. Are you doing anything right now? Neji asked. Neji Hyuga. Tenten addressed him by his full name. She brought her hands to her side. Are you trying to ask me out on a date? Neji could only blush in a bright red tone from Tenten's remark. What? Goodness, you stutter just as much as Hinata. Tenten laughed softly, at least there's something similar about you too. Neji didn't answer, he was still bright red and unable to get any words out of his mouth. Well, I finished my training for the day, maybe some time off would be nice. Tenten answered with a bright smile. So, what do you have in mind? Neji still didn't answer, he was still unable to get over the sudden accusation Tenten made of him. Would you stop looking like that? Tenten asked, if you want to take me out on a date, you have to actually be with me for it. Hinata opened her eyes. She looked around herself, recollecting on what just happened. She found herself in the hospital room and remembered that she fell asleep in here with. She quickly looked up and saw Naruto sitting up on the bed. Naruto-kun. Hi Hinata. Naruto smiled. Why you're okay? Hinata said, trying to put on a smile. Hey, were you here this whole time? Naruto asked, seeing that Hinata was sleeping next to his bed. I. Hinata stuttered out the words too much that she couldn't even complete the first word. Naruto paused to look at Hinata's bright red face. There was something about this look of her that made him realize something. Hinata, is there something you want to tell me? I. Naruto-kun. I've always had feelings for why you. Hinata brought her head down. Would Naruto accept this or ask her to leave? You like me? Naruto asked. For the first time in his life, he actually felt like someone in the world truly cared for him, Hinata. She didn't respond to him. Her head was still down as she was in deep thought. She still waited for whatever the outcome would be. Naruto knew that Hinata must be waiting for an answer. He leaned over to her and embraced her in a warm hug. Thank you. Naruto-kun. Hinata blushed brightly. Naruto was hugging her in the way she always wanted him to. The way that made her feel loved in return. A tear came from her right eye and rolled down her cheek. She closed her eyes and smiled warmly, melting in his arms. Hinata. She opened her eyes, wondering where that came from. That voice didn't sound like Naruto's out of. Hinata. Kiba shook Hinata's body. Hinata, wake up. Hinata slowly opened her eyes. She looked around and realized that everything was a dream. Naruto was still in the bed, in his comatose state. She sighed in disappointment and sadness. Visiting hours are over. Kiba said, we have to go. Hinata got up from her chair, and immediately felt the material of the blanket fall off her back. She looked down to the ground behind her and saw the blanket. Who put that on her? Did someone come in and do this, or was it Naruto? You know we're gonna have to think up of something so that her father doesn't get angry. Kiba said to Shino. We simply trained harder than usual. Shino answered, that's simple. But we've done that one before. Kiba spoke back, he's not gonna fall for it again. To hear that Hinata trains harder than before would make him happy. Shino replied. Of course, he didn't really make eye contact with Kiba for this whole argument. Let's go. B of humans were on the ground, not moving. Around them all, puppets stood over the M, all of them with small splashes of B from the victims they K. From on top of the cliff, the Akatsuki looked over the destruction. Well, I'm impressed. Deidara smiled. That was much more entertaining than Sasori's use of his puppets. Not single one left alive. Kisame noticed. I must say, that truly was impressive. Let's not waste any more time. Itachi hands were up and forward. Though he had every single puppet on strings, the strings were invisible to their eyes. In one swift motion of his wrists, he yanked on the thread, causing the puppets to march back up the hill to where the four stood. We have to prepare for our attack in Konoha. Back down to the destroyed village, the puppets were marching towards the cliffside. One of the puppets stepped on a young man's head as it made to its destination. Once the puppets were a considerable distance away, the man groaned softly before opening his eyes. Tsunade-sama. Sakura stood before the Hokage's desk. You called for me. Yes, I did. Tsunade answered. I understand you came to visit Naruto daily since he ended up in the hospital. Yes, I have. Sakura answered. The image of Naruto in the hospital bed brought back memories of past events, such as when Naruto was taken there after failing to bring back Sasuke. That was a day Sakura would never forget. I understand that you are concerned for your teammate. Tsunade said, but there is nothing you can do for this. A coma is something even I can't cure. We can only hope that Naruto eventually wakes. Sakura brought her head down. Tears slowly started to form in her eyes as she let Tsunade's words repeat in her mind. I understand. Tsunade could easily tell that Sakura was in deep sadness. Crying over the loss of someone close was something she was very familiar with. She tried to think of something that could bring Sakura's hopes up. Wait, there may be hope. Sakura quickly looked up to the godime. Her eyes suddenly changing from looks of sadness to hope. Really? I just remembered, there was once a medical nin from Suna. She was praised for once reviving a Konoha shinobi from 3 months in a coma. Tsunade said as she remembered this information from her medical records. This was over 10 years ago, but if we're lucky, records of how this was done may still be in the village and you can learn the technique. Then we should go. Sakura said, Naruto's going to depend on us for this. Sakura, it's too late now. Tsunade said, I'll prepare your team first thing in the morning and I'll inform the Kazakage of your arrival. For now, go home and rest. Hi. Sakura smiled. She wiped the tears from her eyes and bowed. She left the office with greater hope in her eyes. Hold on a little longer, Naruto. We'll save you. Tsunade sat at her desk, finishing up some paperwork. She then heard the sound of smoke puffing and immediately knew who it was. You know, Kakashi, the door isn't such a bad place to walk through. You really think this could help Naruto? Kakashi asked. He stood to the side of Tsunade's desk, with the smoke still tracing around him. You of all people should know. Tsunade answered. She spun her chair to face Kakashi and had her arms crossed. After all, it was you who was in that coma. ... Flashback. 10 years ago. A fairly more young-looking Kakashi was on a hospital bed in Suna. Machines were attached to his body to keep a check on his body's condition. Medical nin stood around him with one that stood out from all the rest. She stood over Kakashi's body, looking at his conditions in the machine monitor. How long has he been out? The woman asked. 3 months. One of the medical nins answered. That seems too long for a Anbu as brave as him. She reached behind her and pulled out a scroll. Undoing the string that kept the scroll rolled up, she laid it on Kakashi's body. Shin Seisei, Mind Rebirth. With that, she opened the scroll and ran her thumb over the inked characters. As her thumb passed over each character, they lit up in a bright light. After several seconds of this light illuminating the room, it faded. Look, one of the medical nin pointed to the monitor that showed Kakashi's brain condition. He's gaining consciousness. ... End. How could I forget? Kakashi asked. Knowing that he was making a rhetorical question, Tsunade simply changed the subject of his past. Well, as for tomorrow, would you mind being the leader of this mission? Well, considering my past few missions were cancelled for good reasons, it'll be nice to finally have a mission. Kakashi said, who are you putting with me? So far, Sakura, Ino, Hinata, Tenten, Kiba, Shikamaru, and Rock are my choices. Tsunade answered. That seems a little too much for a simple mission. Kakashi remarked on how many he was to bring with him sooner. Hinata and Kiba will alert your team of any danger on your way to the village. Sakura and Ino will need to know how to perform the technique. Shikamaru, Rock and Tenten will be good for any obstacles you may face on your way. Tsunade explained. Knowing that Akatsuki was still out there and that this mission was for the sake of Naruto, she wanted as many available helping hands on this. Very well, Kakashi said, I'll be off to prepare for the mission. With that he disappeared in a puff of smoke. A man stood at his desk, holding a piece of parchment that was given to him. He read it over carefully and upon reaching the end he placed the paper down on his desk. This is tragic news, he said. Kankuro. Kankuro and Temari were standing before this man on the other side of his desk. When will they arrive? He asked. Considering the distance, probably 3 days at the most. Kankuro answered. Then prepare the quarters for them when they arrive, he said, but after a 3-second pause, he spoke again, please. Of course. Kakuro smiled as he nodded. He left the office, leaving Temari with the man. I want to make sure that they do this successfully, he said. After how much he did for me, this would only be a small portion of my reward. You truly care for him, don't you, Gaara? Temari asked. Yes, I do. Gaara answered. He's the first person I truly considered a friend in my entire lifetime. Well, then I'll go and help Kankuro. Temari said. If they plan to make this successful, they'll need to be at their finest condition. Thank you. Gaara smiled softly. Temari smiled back. Seeing her youngest brother smile was something that always made her smile in return. No longer did he give a look that would possibly put fear in people's hearts, he now had a face that showed how much he cared for people and how far he would go for them. Once Temari left the office, Gaara turned to the window that was behind him. Please hold on. We will save you, Naruto. X. That will be all for this video. Be sure to like, subscribe, share, and comment down below for more videos. Goodbye.